In this video, we'll be taking a look at React. React is a JavaScript library developed by Facebook. The core reason to use React is components. For those of you with programming backgrounds, you can think of components as classes. Unlike other languages, JavaScript doesn't have a built-in way to write object-oriented code. Using React, however, we can design components to achieve the same ends. If you have any prior web development experience, you might recall the flow of the HTML document looking something like this, where you have a body and you define all your HTML elements within that body, and then you use CSS to style these elements and move them across the page. In React, however, we use JavaScript to create our elements. Now, let's take a look at how to create our first React component. I've gone ahead and imported the libraries we'll need into our HTML boilerplate. Notice how there are three, the first one being React. The React library, although required to build components, it's actually not specific to front-end development. That is why we need an additional library called React DOM to inject our components into the DOM. Finally, we'll be using Babel or JSX. React doesn't require JSX, but most people find it a useful visual aid. Notice how, in the official React documentation, you have what appears to be HTML written directly inside JavaScript code. Normally, this would throw an error, but in reality, it's JSX. JSX is JavaScript, but with the appearance of HTML. When writing JavaScript in an HTML file, you need to make sure you surround it with a script tag. The name of the class is what we'll use whenever we refer to the component. We have to make sure the class extends the component class from the React library. The render method is called in order to render elements onto the page. Let's open up our page and see what it looks like. That's odd. I don't see anything. Let's take a look at the Chrome console. As you can see, the compiler isn't able to interpret the opening tag. Looking back at our code, I forgot to tell it that we're using JSX instead of vanilla JavaScript. We can do so by replacing the JavaScript with Babel in our script tag. In refreshing the page, the component still isn't rendering. That's because we aren't making use of React DOM. For React to work, you have to make sure to attach the component to an HTML element that's already on the page. By convention, the element is normally an empty div tag. The render method from React DOM takes in two arguments. The first being the component you want to attach, and the second is the element you want the component to be attached to. As you can see, we've successfully created our first component. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos.